My name's Maria, and I used to think I had everything sorted, a great job as the head of marketing, a loving husband named Adam, and a comfortable life. I was paying off our mortgage with my own salary, feeling pretty proud of being financially independent. Family was also a big part of our lives. Adam had a younger brother, Kevin, and their mom, Lauren, was always around. Their dad had passed away years ago, so the boys made sure to look after her. I found it really sweet, and it made me love Adam even more seeing how he cared for his family. At first, Lauren seemed to like me. We'd chat during family gatherings, usually over coffee, and she always asked about my job. Marketing, huh? She'd say with a nod. Sounds important. It felt nice to have her approval. I wanted to fit in with Adam's family and be a part of their close group. Our first few years of marriage were full of weekend barbecues, holiday dinners, and spontaneous game nights with the extended family. I remember one Thanksgiving when we were all squeezed around Lauren's dining table, laughing and talking over each other. "Pass the gravy, will you?" Adam's uncle shouted from the end of the table. "You've had enough gravy, old man," Lauren replied with a grin as she handed him the gravy boat. I looked around at all the familiar faces, feeling like I really belonged. This was my family now too. But things started to change during a New Year's Eve party at Lauren's house. I was in the kitchen, refilling my glass of wine, when I overheard Lauren talking to Adam and Kevin in the living room. "Did you see what Joyce is wearing?" Lauren snickered. "That dress must have cost $10. I froze, my hand on the wine bottle. Joyce was Adam's cousin, a single mom who was struggling to make ends meet. "I'm just saying," Lauren continued, her voice full of disdain. "Some people should know their place. Don't try to keep up with the big boys if you can't." I felt my face heat up from secondhand embarrassment. This wasn't the kind, welcoming family I thought I knew. I peeked around the corner and saw Lauren leaning in toward her sons, all of them giggling like kids. Over time, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling I had around Lauren. What I first thought was just harmless teasing started to feel more like real meanness. And it wasn't just Joyce she picked on. At every family gathering, Lauren would whisper with Adam and Kevin, laughing quietly and glancing around the room at different relatives or friends before bursting into quiet laughter. One Easter Friday, I had enough. Lauren was in the living room with Adam and Kevin right beside her, like loyal followers. "Did you see Olivia's new car?" Lauren said in a low voice, just loud enough to hear. "She probably got it from one of those cheap places. She'll be paying for it forever." Before I knew it, I was on my feet, walking toward them. "Hey," I said, my voice sharper than I meant. "Don't you think that's a bit much? Olivia could probably hear you." The room went silent. Lauren's eyes narrowed as she looked at me. Well, she said sarcastically, "looks like we've upset your delicate feelings, Maria." Adam and Kevin exchanged awkward looks. "I just think it's rude," I said, my heart racing. "Why do you always have to tear people down?" Lauren's fake smile vanished. "If you don't like it, you don't have to listen. Why don't you go sit somewhere else?" It felt like a slap. I looked at Adam, hoping he'd support me, but he just stared at the floor. "Fine," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I will." From that day, family gatherings were miserable. I'd sit alone, nursing a drink while Adam stayed glued to his mother's side. He'd give me an apologetic look once in a while, but never came to sit with me. One night, after a particularly bad dinner, I asked him, "Why don't you ever stand up to her?" Adam sighed and ran his hand through his hair. "She's my mom, Maria. What do you expect me to do? I want you to tell her she's being cruel. I want you to have my back." But he never did. Slowly, I started making excuses not to go to family events, work emergencies, headaches, anything to avoid the cold stares and quiet insults. Then things just got worse. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, life surprised me again. I was pregnant. I stared at the little plastic stick in the bathroom, my heart racing. 3 pink lines, clear as day. "Adam," I called out, my voice shaky. "Can you come here?" He came to the door, looking worried. "What's wrong?" he asked. Without saying a word, I handed him the test. His eyes widened as he looked at it, and then he pulled me into a hug. For a moment, I thought maybe everything would be okay, that this baby might bring us closer and fix the growing distance between us. But life had other plans. The pregnancy was tough from the start. I was constantly nauseous, dizzy, and always worried about the risk of a miscarriage. My doctor put me on bed rest, so I had to work from home. As the weeks went by, my health got worse. My eyesight started to fail, a rare complication. The doctor said it might be temporary, but it could also be permanent. I could barely see my laptop, and with a heavy heart, I had to quit my job. I needed Adam more than ever, but he seemed to be pulling away. He started coming home late, saying he had extra work or drinks with colleagues. Most nights, I fell asleep alone, sometimes waking up in the middle of the night to hear the front door closing. The day of my C-section came faster than I expected. My eyesight had gotten so bad that the doctors insisted on the surgery. Natural birth was too risky. Lying on the cold operating table, I was a mix of excitement and fear. "Where's Adam?" I asked the nurse, my voice shaking. She gave me a kind smile. "Your husband's in the waiting room. He said he'd rather stay there." The surgery went well, and soon I heard the sweetest sound, my son's first cry. They placed him on my chest, and I felt a love so strong, it took my breath away. Later, in the recovery room, Adam finally showed up. His face was full of discomfort and frustration. "Look, Maria," he said, "I need to say something. This whole thing, it's not right." I blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" He ran his hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "Normal women give birth on their own, without all this surgery stuff. And men, we're not supposed to be here for this. We should meet our wives and kids at home, like in the old days." His words hit me like a punch in the gut. I couldn't risk it, I started to say, but Adam cut me off. "Save it. I'm going home. This place creeps me out." The next few weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and endless feedings. Adam was rarely home, and when he was, he didn't help with our son. Instead, he complained constantly. "Can't you shut him up?" he'd snap when our baby cried in the middle of the night. "I'm trying," I'd say, exhausted. "He's teething, Adam. It hurts him." But Adam had no patience. "All you do is focus on the kid. What about me? What about our sex life?" I'd just stare at him in disbelief. I was running on 3 hours of sleep, still recovering from surgery, and he was worried about sex. As the weeks turned into months, Adam grew more frustrated. One evening, while I was trying to calm our fussy 5-month-old, he dropped a bombshell. "You need to go back to work," he said flatly. I turned to him, shocked. "What about the baby?" "We'll hire a nanny," he interrupted. "We can't keep living like this, Maria. We need the money." I wanted to argue, to say that our son needed me, and I wasn't ready to leave him. But the look on Adam's face told me it was useless. So, with a heavy heart, I started looking for a job. Finding work with my vision problems wasn't easy, but I eventually got a job at a smaller company. The pay was much less than what I made before. When I told Adam, his reaction was predictable. "That's it," he scoffed. "We're paying a nanny for this?" I felt tears welling up. "I'm doing my best, Adam. It's hard with my eyesight." "Excuses," he muttered, walking away. And so my new life began. Rushing to work every morning, feeling guilty about leaving my baby with a nanny, struggling to get through the day with my limited vision, and coming home to a resentful husband and a child who needed me. Time passed in a blur of work, childcare, and growing tension at home. Before I knew it, 3 years had gone by since my son was born. Despite everything, I loved my son deeply and found joy in watching him grow. But family gatherings were still stressful, especially because of Lauren. She would show up acting like the perfect grandmother, but it was all for show. "Come to Grandma," she'd say sweetly, holding her arms out to my son. But he'd cling to me, turning away from her. Lauren's face would darken with anger. "What have you been telling him about me?" she'd hiss. "You're turning my own grandson against me." I tried to explain, my voice tired. "He just doesn't know you well, Lauren. If you visited more often." "Don't you dare blame this on me," she snapped, storming off to complain to Adam. Then, on a regular Sunday morning, my world changed again. I stared at the pregnancy test in my hand, my heart racing positive. I was pregnant again. Fear washed over me. My first pregnancy had been so hard on my body, I wasn't sure I could handle another. But as I counted the weeks, I realized I was already well into my first trimester. It seemed like the decision had been made for me. With shaky hands, I called Adam at work. "What is it?" he answered, sounding impatient.
"Adam, I'm pregnant."
There was a long pause. "Look, Maria, I'm busy. We'll talk later."
"Just don't quit your job, okay?"
"We can't afford that." Then he hung up. I sat there, holding the phone, feeling more alone than ever. Thankfully, this pregnancy was easier than my first. The morning sickness wasn't as bad, and my vision stayed stable. I kept working, determined to provide for my growing family. But as my belly grew, so did the distance between Adam and me. He spent more and more time at his mother's house, often coming home late. One evening, as I was struggling to put our son to bed while balancing my swollen belly, Adam walked in. "Hey," I said, hoping for some help. "Can you read him a story?"
"I'm exhausted."
Adam glanced at us, then at his watch. "I can't. I promised Mom I'd help remove some furniture. Don't wait up." As the door closed behind him, a tear slid down my cheek. I looked at my son, his big eyes staring up at me, and then at my belly, home to another child I already loved so much. By the time I reached my 8th month of pregnancy, it was time to prepare for Thanksgiving. Guests started arriving in the afternoon. My parents came early, with my mom jumping in to help in the kitchen. Friends and relatives trickled in, filling the house with laughter and chatter. Just as I was about to serve dinner, the doorbell rang. It was Kevin, Adam's younger brother, and to everyone's surprise, he had a woman with him. "Everyone, this is Brenda," Kevin said, smiling. "My fiancée." The room went quiet for a moment before bursting into congratulations. I forced a smile, trying to ignore the small feeling of jealousy, when I saw how happy Adam looked seeing his brother, so happy. Lauren arrived shortly after, her eyes widening when she saw Brenda. "Well, well," she said with approval. "Aren't you a sight for sore eyes?" Throughout dinner, Lauren couldn't stop fawning over Brenda, asking her lots of questions and hanging on her every word. I tried to focus on being a good hostess, but I kept overhearing their conversation. "So, Brenda," Lauren said loudly so everyone could hear, "Kevin tells me you're a manager at National Bank." "How impressive." Brenda nodded, looking a bit uncomfortable. "Yes, I've been there for about 6 years now." Lauren beamed. "You must be doing very well for yourself. Unlike some people who just pop out babies and create poverty," she added, glancing at me. My face burned with embarrassment. My mom, sitting next to me, tensed up, ready to defend me, but I gently placed a hand on her arm, begging her not to make a scene. Lauren wasn't finished. "Brenda here makes $230,000 a year. Now, that's the kind of daughter-in-law I've always wanted: smart, beautiful, and successful." Tears filled my eyes as I thought about all the years I'd spent supporting our family, paying the mortgage, and building a career I had been proud of. It all seemed forgotten now. Lauren stood up and said, "I think we should continue this lovely evening somewhere more fitting. Brenda, dear, why don't we go to that new restaurant downtown? My treat." Before I could even react, Lauren, Adam, Kevin, and Brenda were heading out the door. Adam didn't even look back at me as they left. The remaining guests sat awkwardly, the festive mood gone. One by one, they made their excuses and left, leaving only my parents. They offered to help, but I told them to go rest. Finally alone, I sat on the couch and let the tears flow. Hours passed as I cried, my hand resting on my swollen belly, wondering how my life had ended up like this. It was almost dawn when I heard the front door open. Adam stumbled in, smelling like alcohol and cigarettes. He didn't say a word as he went to the bedroom. With shaky hands, I picked up my phone and opened social media. There they were: Lauren, Adam, Kevin, and Brenda smiling in selfies at an expensive nightclub. The caption read, "Best Thanksgiving ever with my real family." As my due date got closer, I felt both excited and anxious. The doctors had scheduled my C-section, saying it was the safest option since it had been less than 4 years since my last one. I tried to focus on getting ready for our new baby, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off with Adam. One cold winter afternoon, I found him unpacking bags full of summer clothes. "What's all this?" I asked, confused. Adam shrugged, barely looking at me. Saw a good sale. Thought I'd update my wardrobe. It didn't make sense, but with the baby on my mind, I pushed my suspicions aside. I had been carefully saving money in a separate account, so I could take a couple of months off work to recover and bond with our new baby. My job had approved 3 months of unpaid leave, which was a relief. I had saved enough to cover the mortgage, bills, and even a babysitter for our 4-year-old. For once, I felt ready. 5 days before my scheduled C-section, everything fell apart. I was resting on the couch when Adam burst through the door, with Lauren right behind him. "Hurry up," Lauren snapped as Adam rushed to our bedroom. I struggled to stand up and followed them, waddling after. Adam was throwing clothes into a suitcase, the summer clothes he had bought. "Adam," I said, panic rising in my voice. "What are you doing?" He barely glanced at me. "Kevin's getting married in Bermuda. We're all going." The world seemed to spin.
What?
"But my C-section is in 5 days. Who's going to take care of our son?" Adam zipped up the suitcase and finally looked at me with cold indifference. "You'll manage. You always do." Before I could say another word, he brushed past me, and Lauren hurried him out the door. The door slammed shut, leaving me standing there in shock. Reality hit me hard. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking, and checked our joint account. It was empty. All the money I had saved was gone. Trembling, I dialed Adam's number. He answered on the last ring. "What?" he snapped. "The money," I stammered. "All our savings." "Where is it?" There was a pause, followed by a cold laugh. "We needed it for Kevin's wedding gift." "Don't be so selfish, Maria." The call ended. A sharp pain shot through my abdomen, and I looked down in horror as a puddle formed at my feet. My water had broken. Panic surged through me. I couldn't go into labor now, not with the risk from my previous C-section. With one hand on my belly and the other clutching my phone, I called emergency services. The hospital was chaos. Doctors were shouting, machines were beeping. I woke up hours later to the soft beeping of monitors. My mom's tear-streaked face came into view. "Maria," she whispered, squeezing my hand. "You're okay. The baby's okay." Slowly, the fog cleared. I had almost died, and so had my baby, but we made it. 5 days after the emergency C-section, I was feeling surprisingly strong, both physically and emotionally. The doctors were happy with my recovery and said I could go home. Adam hadn't called once since he left for Bermuda. He didn't check if I was okay or ask about our new son. In that moment, I knew our marriage was over. I called my parents and asked if I could stay with them for a while. They immediately said yes, and were so supportive. They helped take care of both boys, giving me time to rest and recover. I started looking for divorce lawyers and gathering financial documents. A week after I left the hospital, my phone rang. It was Adam. I ignored it twice, but on the third call, I answered. "Where the hell are you? Why aren't you home?" Adam's voice was full of anger and confusion. I took a deep breath. "I'm at my parents' house, Adam, with both of our sons. I've filed for divorce." There was a brief silence, then he laughed. "Divorce? Are you serious? After everything I've done for you? Everything you've done?" I snapped, feeling my anger rise. "Like leaving me before I gave birth? Like stealing all our savings?" "Get over it," he scoffed. "I'll pay you back. In fact, I don't even want to see you again. You know why? Because I'm going to be rich." He launched into a rant about how Kevin's new wife had given him a job at the bank and how they were going to start their own financial company. He talked about how they'd be rich beyond belief. "You never believed in me, Maria," he spat. "You always shot down my ideas and held me back. Well, guess what? I'm free now. And you're just a loser who can't see real potential." The divorce moved quickly, to my surprise. Adam didn't fight me on anything. He returned the money he took from our accounts and agreed to pay alimony. When it came to the house, I had years of proof that I'd been the one paying the mortgage, so the judge awarded it to me without hesitation. The day I returned home with the boys, Adam was there, packing the last of his things. He sneered as I walked in, holding the baby, with our toddler by my side. "Enjoy this dump while you can," he said, lifting a box. "I'll be living in a mansion soon, swimming in money. You'll see what you missed out on." And with that, he walked out the door. I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders, and the house suddenly felt bigger and brighter. A year and a half had passed since the divorce, and life had settled into a new routine for me and my boys. I had gone back to work and was balancing my career and being a mom. It wasn't always easy, but we were happy, healthy, and thriving. One ordinary Sunday, my phone buzzed with a news alert. When I read the headline, my jaw dropped. "Local banker exposed as fraud leaves family in ruins." The article revealed a shocking scandal. Brenda, Kevin's wife, had been running a con. She had convinced Adam, Kevin, and Lauren to take out huge loans to fund a fake financial company. They even mortgaged Lauren's house, pouring everything they had into this imaginary venture. But Brenda wasn't a real banker. The office she had shown them was just a rental used as part of her scam. She disappeared with millions, leaving behind fake documents and shattered dreams. To make it worse, I found out they had taken out another loan to pay for Kevin and Brenda's fancy Bermuda wedding, the same event Adam had left me for. As I kept reading, I felt a mix of emotions. Shock, confusion, and, yes, a small bit of satisfaction. The consequences were harsh. Unable to pay back the loans, they lost everything: Lauren's house, their cars, even their personal belongings, all taken by creditors. They were left with nothing but piles of debt. I heard Lauren had to take a job as a cashier just to afford a small apartment and groceries. Adam and Kevin were in the same situation, their dreams of wealth completely destroyed. I was beyond grateful I had divorced Adam when I did. My children and I were safe and not touched by the financial disaster that hit my ex-husband's family. Just when I thought I had put all of it behind me, my phone rang. Lauren's number popped up on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Maria," Lauren's voice was soft, very different from her usual bossy tone. "We need your help." She started begging, asking if they could stay with us. "The children need their father and grandmother," she insisted. "You can't leave family in trouble." I took a deep breath, memories flooding back: Thanksgiving humiliation, being left before my C-section, all the times they had treated me poorly. I kept my voice steady and said, "You didn't care about family when you left me alone, pregnant and in danger. You didn't care about family when you took all my savings. And you didn't care about family when you called me a loser." Lauren started to argue, but I cut her off. "I'm sorry you're in this mess, Lauren, but I'm not responsible for the choices you, Adam, and Kevin made. My priority is my children, and I won't let them be exposed to the chaos you've created. Please don't contact me again." I hung up and immediately blocked her number. As I put the phone down, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. It was done, truly done.